Good evening. Welcome to the January 14, 2026 regular governing board meeting. This meeting is reconvened at 6:07 p.m. Roll call, please.
Trustee Fox.
Present.
Trustee Hodges.
Present.
Trustee Young.
Present.
Vice President Flores.
Present.
President Amboy.
Present.
And our student trustees are absent. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For 5C, report of actions taken in closed session. The governing board met in closed session and received information on anticipated litigation, labor negotiations, and the superintendent's performance evaluation. No actions were taken. Direction was provided to the superintendent and staff. Can I get a motion and a second to adopt the agenda?
You got it?
Trustee Hodges?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Vice President Flores? Roll call?
Trustee Fox.
Aye.
Trustee Hodges.
Aye.
Trustee Young.
Aye.
Vice President Flores.
Aye.
And President Amboy.
Aye.
And the motion passes 5 yes.
We're down to board presentations, adoption of resolutions, memoriams, community donations, acknowledgements, and recognition.
So, President Amboy, I do want to pause for a moment and just say a few words regarding the passing of one of our colleagues last week. So we pause today to honor the life and service of Tamala Sullivan. Tamala joined VCUSD in March of 2008 and dedicated more than 17 years of service to our district, always in support of deaf and hard of hearing programs. Over the years, she also served in the following roles. She was an Educational Interpreter 3 and a DHH Paraeducator 2. Tamala was a dedicated interpreter, a passionate deaf advocate, and a steadfast support for students in the deaf and hard of hearing program at Pennycook. She was an integral part of the Pennycook community, ensuring students were included, understood, and valued. Her commitment and compassion left a lasting impact on students, families, and colleagues. We'd hold her in our hearts as we observe a moment of silence in gratitude for her life and the difference she made.
Thank you. We're down to 6A, donations to VCUSD from our district partners, and we have none. 7A, interagencies, none. 7B, Vallejo Education Association, VEA. No, we have none today. California School Employee Associations, CSEA.
No reports, ma'am.
Thank you. And VSMA. No report. Okay. 7C, reports of district advisory committees.
No reports this evening.
And for 7D, we have student reports, and the students are absent today. 7E, community members. The purpose of the forum is for the staff and public to offer comments, reports on items of interest within the jurisdiction of the board, which are not on this evening's agenda. The public and staff are invited to make comments. However, no items brought to the board's attention under this section of the agenda may be acted upon at the meeting. Individual comments will be limited to no more than 3 minutes. Individuals may not relinquish their time for another speaker to add to the designated 3 minutes. Superintendent Aurelio, do we have any community member cards submitted?
I do have some cards, and I'm just trying to clarify if they're for exactly for this item. Kashana Harmon Lee, is this the item you wish to speak to? So you can please come to the podium.
Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I'm here today on behalf of myself, as well as advocate for my colleagues, especially one in particular that you guys honored tonight, Tamala Sullivan. Tamala wanted to speak this evening, but sadly we lost her before she had the chance. I'm here to honor her request to speak the truth and demand change. My colleagues have experienced workplace hostility and denial of access over an extended period of time. They have been dismissed, degraded, and spoken about rather than spoken with. They have consistently done their due diligence by documenting concerns and requesting support, yet they have not been met with anything but favoritism towards staff and lack of accountability and failure to take corrective actions. I can say this truthfully because I personally witnessed these behaviors and experienced some of them myself during my short time at Pennacook Elementary School. These actions were not isolated incidents. They reflect a culture that is normalized. They normalize gossiping, disrespect, and dismissal of colleagues, particularly in the deaf of hard of hearing program. When this conduct by staff and outside contractors go unchecked, it creates a toxic work environment. More importantly, it creates an unhealthy learning environment for our students. Toxic adult dynamics spill into classrooms, create power struggles among staff, disrespect collaboration, and ultimately impact students. A central issue here is the denial of communication access. And when I speak to denial of access, I'm specifically referring to situations in where contracted interpreters refuse to interpret for deaf and hard of hearing employees and support staff working with deaf and hard of hearing students. My colleagues experienced denial of access by contracted interpreters who were present but refused to provide interpretation. Deaf and hard of hearing employees and staff are not asking for favors. They are demanding access. On multiple occasions, these interpreters were presented but refused to interpret, resulting in complete exclusion from communication. That is not a misunderstanding. That is a failure of access. And let me be clear that this issue is not only about interpreters, but also about the conduct of other staff, including teachers, whose actions have contributed to hostile and inequitable work environment. It is important to note that the interpreter company currently used by the district has been discontinued by other businesses in Solano County. A change in contracting companies is necessary because quality in the name does not always reflect quality in practice. Our experiences reflect broader challenges across the special education program in totality, where there is a lack of adequately trained and qualified staff. Continuing under the current model undermines access, accountability, and educational outcomes. Because of these experiences, we are asking the district to provide written assurance that interpreters are required to interpret at all times, to conduct a formal review of interpreter access failures and staff conduct, to establish and enforce the district-wide protocol governing access and professional behavior, to review change the interpreter services provided, and to provide written non-retaliation protections. These requests are grounded in the Americans with Disabilities Act, Section 504, the California Fair Employment and Housing Act, California Government Code 1135, and District Non-Discrimination and Equal Employment Obligations. Our students deserve healthy learning environments where adults model professionalism and equity and respect. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next card I have, and I apologize, I'm trying to decipher, is it Quicko Middleton? Yes, perfect. Is this the item you wish to speak on?
Well, I was here speaking on behalf of, Boyle Project.
Sure, perfect.
Battery space, and I've got to read it.
Okay. Just want to make sure we have you on the right item.
Okay. Wow. Good evening, members of the board, district, and leadership. I come before you today as a concerned community member and advocate for the students of our district. I want to speak directly to the individuals who set policy, guide the direction of our schools, the board members and decision makers who hold the authority and responsibility to ensure that public education serves all students equitably and effectively. We face a critical moment. We face a critical moment. We have access to state, federal resources such as expanded learning programs designed specifically to support supplemental academic, social, emotional, and skill-based growth for our students. These funds are meant to bridge gaps, provide enrichment, and ensure that every child has the opportunity to thrive. Yet, all too often, the distribution of these resources falls short of its potential. Instead of a transparent process that prioritizes equity and results, these funds are too often allocated through favoritism or nepotism. While staff work tirelessly, many entrenched in routines that, without proper oversight and accountability, can become bureaucratic and disengaged. Despite the urgency of the work we face, I am asking the board today to challenge the status quo. I'm asking you to ensure that staff, consultants, and partners working with the public funds are held to the highest standard of diligence, creativity, and integrity. We need individuals who are fired up about the challenge ahead, not simply going through the motions. We need processes that are transparent, equitable, and outcomes-driven, including open requests for proposals that give all qualified providers a fair opportunity to serve our students. Our students deserve no less. We have a responsibility to use every available dollar, every program, and every resource to its fullest potential. I urge you, as stewards of this district, to exercise your authority boldly, demand accountability, insist on equity, and hold bureaucracies to a standard that puts students first. The challenge is significant, but the stakes, our children, our community, our future, are far greater. Thank you for your time and your service. Let me know if you want. Okay, that's it.
Thank you. The last card for this specific item is Cindy Murray. Murray.
This is a really difficult time for me. This is my first time coming up and speaking, but I'm normally, Tamala was the one who was always advocating. This has been a really hard and stressful work environment. I was one of the deaf people that was previously mentioned having no interpreters, or interpreters refusing to interpret for me. And so I'm here to formally request that you please drop the agency that the school has been partnering with, because the interpreters who they're using have no training, do not conduct themselves ethically, and they're often, we're seeing favoritism, power struggles, and things like that. And it's been really, really awful. So please, please, for me, for Tamala, we need the change. We've been asking for it. Thank you.
Thank you. That is all the cards for the community members, 7E, so we can move on to the next item.
Moving to 8, consent. May I have a motion and a second to approve consent items A through P? Vice President Flores.
Make a motion to accept consent items 8A through 8P.
Trustee Dr. Young.
I second.
We have a motion by Vice President Flores and a second by Trustee Dr. Young. Roll call, please.
Trustee Fox,
Aye.
Trustee Hodges,
Aye.
Trustee Young,
Aye.
Vice President Flores,
Aye.
and President Amboy,
Aye.
and the motion passes 5 yes.
Now we're down to information. Job classification and compensation exploration study proposal. Matt Chamberlain, Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources.
Good evening, President Amboy and trustees. I'm here tonight to present a proposal for job classification and compensation exploration study proposal. We are looking to use the Educational Management Solutions Company, EMS, who would come in and do an unbiased and impartial comprehensive job classification and compensation exploration study to give Vallejo City Unified School District a clear, legally defensible, and data-driven understanding of its workforce structure and pay systems. This study prepares the district to make informed decisions that improve equity, competitiveness, and long-term fiscal sustainability. What will EMS do for us? Well, they'll give us a clear and defensible job classification list in which they will review classified, certificated, and administrative positions to ensure that the job roles are accurate, consistent, and aligned with how work is actually being performed across the district. This reduces confusion, overlap, and risk related to misclassification and out-of-class assignments. In terms of legally compliant and job descriptions, the EMS will develop and refine function-based job descriptions to meet current legal standards, and the descriptions will strengthen the district's position in hiring, evaluations, accommodations, grievances, and potential litigation. Using an education-specific point factor methodology, EMS will analyze internal equity access of positions. As a district, we will clearly understand whether our jobs are fairly aligned with one another and identify compression, inconsistencies, and inequities before they become larger labor legal issues. In terms of structure of the compensation, EMS will evaluate current salary structures to identify systematic issues affecting recruitment, retention, and placement. The focus is on practical, sustainable compensation strategies that align with the district's goals and fiscal realities, not theoretical models. In terms of market positioning, EMS will identify appropriate local and regional market competitors, ensuring that VCUSD is prepared for a full market compensation study and understands where it stands competitively for key roles. And 2 of our local school districts in Solano County have already undergone this process. In terms of stakeholder engagement, EMS will use a collaborative process that includes administrators, supervisors, and employee organizations, our unions. This transparency will build trust, reduce conflict, and increase the likelihood of successful implementation. In terms of the capacity for building staff, the HR department will receive training with access to EMS's Nexus job description software, enabling the district to maintain and update job data long after the study is complete. In terms of what the board will receive for this study, the board will receive a clear report of findings and recommendations outlining risks and opportunities and specific next steps for a full classification and compensation study. Now, EMS is not a company that is just a startup. EMS has been around for 30 years. They have extensive work in California, and many of the districts in and around Solano County have used EMS before, especially in Contra Costa County. They have proven success working with boards, unions, and administration, and they focus on a practical implementation, not just analysis. So, what problem are we looking to resolve? Well, we have inconsistent and outdated job descriptions, internal pay inequities and compression, misclassification and out-of-class work concerns, difficulty recruiting and retaining qualified staff, and exposure to legal and labor challenges, which creates a district-wide issue for the HR department and the district-wide. How will this again work with our labor partners? Well, this is a collaborative process in which EMS will engage the process with all of our labor groups in order to provide transparency that builds trust, reduces disputes over outcomes, improves acceptable findings of any concerns, as well as defining the roles and equity analysis that reduces grievance that are related to classification and compensation. So overall, what will we be getting? We'll be getting a district-wide classification analysis, a compensation structure review, a market compensation identification, stakeholder engagement, a detailed final report with recommendations, training for the staff, HR staff, and all of the travel and materials are within the expenses that are included in the proposal. So again, this is for information, and I'll bring this back next month for your consideration.
Trustee Dr. Young?
I have a question. Thank you for that overview. The question is, how many consultant firms did you consult before you decided on this one? That's question number one.
Sure. There are two organizations that do this type of work that I'm aware of, School Services being one of them and EMS being the other.
I see that we're also becoming an ATM machine for out-of-state contracts too. This is an out-of-state contract. We couldn't find anybody within our state to solidify this job?
They operate out of Nebraska, but they do have a local office in Murphy's, California. And so in terms of the overall cost, this company has worked with small, medium, and large size districts. And so I think that they fit right within what we're looking for. The study will not mandate raises or structural changes, but offer suggestions and recommendations based upon the market around us. And in terms of overall expense, I think it's a reasonable expense that will help us to right-size all of our compensation structures to make sure that we are competitive within the area.
That's fine, but that didn't answer. Why are we outsourcing again? Don't we have anything in California?
For the study, we could certainly reach out to School Services to see, but their proposal is going to be about the same price as what EMS is charging us.
Because one is based in Arizona, one is based in Wyoming. I have a concern with that.
Yeah, Dixon Unified, for example, they use School Services.
Thank you.
Trustee Hodges?
Thank you. So you said there were two other school districts nearby that used them. Get any feedback about the services they received?
At the last Labor Law Consortium last Friday, both districts mentioned that they've gone through the process, and they felt that it was a successful process for them. Not to quote out of context Dixon Unified, but they've recognized that they're at the bottom level of compensation across Solano County, and they're looking to aim for the middle of the county, so they're going to be doing some substantial work there. Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, moving to 9B, second quarterly report regarding Williams Settlement Uniform Complaints, October 1st, 2025 through December 31st, 2025. Assistant Superintendent Heather DePasio.
Good evening, Superintendent, President Amboy, Vice President Flores, Trustee Dr. Young, Trustee Hodges, and Trustee Fox. I bring before you the item with the quarterly report for the Williams Settlement and Uniform Complaints. This report does indicate one facilities complaint that was received right before we went on winter break. So it is as of yet unresolved, but it is my understanding that the materials and parts have been ordered to resolve the complaint.
Thank you. All right, moving down to item 10. Consider adoption of Resolution 5103 to approve renewal petition for Griffin Academy High School. Again, Superintendent Heather DePasio, please.
Yes, good evening again. I am joined by Coordinator Christy Gardner, who's going to present with me. I'm going to open and she's going to go walk through the report with you. As you are aware, the district received a petition on October 15th to renew Griffin Academy High School's charter for a 5-year term, commencing July 1st, 2026 and ending on June 30th, 2031. Griffin Academy High School has been authorized by the district since 2020 and operates as an independent classroom-based charter school serving students in 9th through 12th grade. As you know, under AB 1505, we must have two public hearings, one to determine the level of support for the petition, and two for the board to consider the approval or the denial of the petition, and during which the petitioner must receive equal time and procedures as district staff to address the findings and any proposed recommendations. So district staff has also published the staff report and proposed the findings, facts, and recommendations ahead of tonight's meeting. Both of these requirements are being met this evening, and you may recall that there was an initial public hearing before we went on winter break, with this being the second public hearing. Additionally, the law that is applicable to an existing charter pertains to whether it meets certain academic achievement and performance criteria to qualify for renewal. So the law now sets out a three-tiered system, whether a school is a high-performing charter school, a middle-performing charter school, or a low-performing charter school. And those designations guide the board on whether or not they are presumptive approval or presumptive denial. A high-achieving charter is eligible for at least a 5-year term of renewal and up to 7-year term. A middle-performing charter is presumed eligible for a 5-year term, and a low-performing charter is a presumption of denial, meaning they are presumed to be ineligible, however, could be authorized for a 2-year term. So given that Griffin Academy High School qualifies as a middle-performing charter school, placement in this tier requires that the district evaluate their performance on local indicators and the dashboard, greater weight being given to measures of academic performance, and that there be clear and convincing evidence demonstrated by data that the charter school has achieved measurable increases in student academic achievement or post-secondary outcomes. So the only criteria, if these criteria are met, the board must grant a 5-year renewal with limited exceptions, those exceptions being if they fail to make sufficient progress toward meeting standards that provide a benefit to the school students, if the closure is in the best interest of students, and if the decision provides greater weight to performance on measurements of academic performance. So if these factors are present, then you could consider a denial. But in the absence of these factors, there is a presumption in favor of renewal. Okay. I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Gardner to share this staff report.
Good evening, Superintendent Aurelio, President Amboy, Vice President Flores, and board members Young, Hodges, and Fox. The district has conducted a thorough review and evaluation of the Griffin Academy High School petition to determine whether or not the school should be renewed for an additional term. I'm here to provide you an overview of our findings and the district's recommendation. Griffin Academy High School is a middle-performing school, as you've heard, and a middle-performing school is a school that does not meet high-performing status, defined as a school where performance indicator colors are blue or green on all state indicators for 2 years, nor does it meet the low performance status defined as a school where all performance indicators are either red or orange for 2 years, and schools that do not meet either of these criteria are considered middle performing schools. Griffin Academy High School performance indicators range from blue in ELA, or English Language Arts, to red in the suspension rate. An increase in both ELA and math has sustained their position as a middle-performing school, along with their verified data confirming at least 1 year's progress for each year in school or strong post-secondary outcomes. As stated before, Griffin High School has originally approved in 2020. And although the managing entity and the affiliated schools have been around since 1999. Griffin High School, or Griffin Academy High School, is an early college high school that partners with community college to allow students dual access to college coursework and many of these courses are taught on their site or online. This model and partnership allows students the opportunity to attain an associate's degree along with their high school diploma. The school uses the Gradient Learning Platform, which was formerly Summit Learning, and integrates curriculum, assessment, and socio-emotional learning across core subjects and is compatible with their Chromebooks that they use on site. The petition also stresses CTE pathways, although the program relies on community college pathways rather than offering them at the high school. It is also noted that the enrollment calculations included in this petition have been significantly revised from the original petition to reflect enrollment trends experienced over the past 5 years. Based on Griffin Academy High School's multi-year projections, cash flow, and budget assumptions included with the renewal petition, Griffin Academy High School appears financially stable, and its budget is balanced across all years of the proposed 5-year charter term. However, recent concerns have been raised with GTA regarding interorganizational loans among the GTA-affiliated schools, a concern that will be addressed in a separate meeting with GTA leadership. Based on the results from the CASP and progress being made, Griffin Academy High School, as a middle-performing school, qualifies to be renewed for a 5-year term. However, through the evaluation process, there were areas identified that need clarification or action that needs to be addressed. The district is asking that a plan be put in place and included in an addendum to the petition in the following areas that I've identified. These include the clarification of credits needed to graduate. The petition offers 2 different numbers, 240 and 245. Additionally, a confirmation of the number of high school credits students could earn during the high school career is not in the petition. There's no reference made as to how many students a student could potentially earn through the 4 years of high school. The petition does not include a description of a guidance counselor's role in guiding students through their high school years, even though the petition states in element B, measurable student outcomes, state priority 4, regarding student achievement, sub-priority E, their AP exam, passage rate, under actions to achieve goal, it's listed, offer academic counseling and support to guide students in selecting rigorous courses that align with their college and career goals. Please note that there are no AP courses that are offered, and there is no reference to the counselor's role in the petition, or it's referenced minimally. Additional information and actions also needed to address specific elements of the petition include the following. We need to amend element B, measurable student outcomes, sub-priority basic services, teachers with reference to their teachers, a description of actions to take that support and ensure teachers are on track to clear their credentials and are current with their licensing. As an example, English learner certification. They need to reevaluate element B, other student outcomes, to ensure that appropriate goals address all student groups, that they are measurable and consistent and in alignment with other related goals and outcomes for the student populations in reference to state priority number 5 and sub-priorities C and D, which relate to science and social science. The current goal is for at least 70% of students pass coursework in science and social sciences. This could severely impact their graduation rate if only 70% of their students pass these courses as they're required for graduation. Amend element D, governments, to include a description of the selection process for filling vacant board positions and a description of how board will ensure active parental participation in the governance of Griffin Academy High School. This is the second request for this. This was the identical verbiage that was used in the renewal petition for the MIT Middle School. That was the new term started at 7/1/25. This recommendation was previously made in those findings. Amend element E, employee qualifications, and add job descriptions of the counselor, wellness coordinator, and wellness coach as key employees for Griffin Academy High School. The petition only describes the role of the counselor as it relates to higher achieving students, and does not include descriptions of the wellness coordinator, the wellness coaches, or the counselor. I'm losing my voice. Additional information is also needed to address the 2025 dashboard results in the following areas. Measures to take to increase and maintain future progress in English learners and long-term English learners, addressing the reasons for the decline noted in the 2025 dashboard. The English learner progress indicator declined by 11.5%, and the long-term English learner indicator declined by 9.8%. Development of a system of accountability with specific timelines to address the increase in the number of suspensions and the goal to reduce the current number to 3% in each subgroup. The 2025 dashboard for African American subgroup is 24.4%, which was an increase of 13% over last year's. And socioeconomically disadvantaged subgroup currently is 14.8%, which is an increase of 6.8% from the prior year. The plan for increasing college and career indicator, this declined by 32.4% from prior year. The indicator measures high school graduates' readiness using multiple metrics, which include the Smarter Balanced test scores, completion of A through G courses, success in CTE pathways, AP and IB exams, college credit scores, and a military leadership program. Investigating why this indicator sustained a substantial decline will assist in creating an appropriate plan of action to address the situation. Currently, the indicator is dependent upon the Smarter Balanced test scores, A through G course completion, and students successfully completing college coursework. Fleshing out the actions to offer academic counseling and support to guide students in selecting rigorous courses that align with their college and career goals, which was indicated in element B, measurable student outcomes for student achievement in the AP category, and developing a mechanism to track each student's college and career plan with checkpoints to ensure that each student is on track to graduate, may serve to address both the decline in college and career indicator and the graduation rate. As Griffin Academy High School is making sufficient progress towards meeting standards that provide a benefit to the school students, closing the school would not be in the best interest of students. And based on the dashboard, progress is being made in English language arts and math, although EL progress and career and college indicators also need attention. The district requests that should the petition be approved, the areas identified as needing attention be addressed, and a written addendum be submitted to the district prior to commencement of the new term or by June 30th, 2020, for further evaluation by the district. That concludes my report. Thank you. My voice.
Time to open a public hearing. You know, open it.
Trustee Fox?
I have a few questions. I don't know who I asked them to, but first one, can you clarify that the attendance was changed throughout the report of the petition? What did you mean by the number of attendance at the site was changed in the report, in the petition?
Oh, the enrollment?
Discrepancies, yes.
What discrepancies? What do you mean?
You said something that there was changes in the petition with the.
Oh, the enrollment numbers. In each petition, you have to anticipate
No, the microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry. In each petition, you need to identify the number of students that you anticipate for 5 years for the term. So in the original petition, when it was first approved, like the max would be it billed out to 560 students. And in the current petition, it's much more realistic because they're starting with a population of only 170 students. So they're building it out to, I believe, 286.
Thank you. And then what was there's something about loans being taken. What was that? Concern about a loan.
Interagency loans, that's kind of a financial situation that we're addressing with them currently. It doesn't have anything really to do with this particular petition. The information that they submitted in this was adequate.
Okay. And the next one is, how many current teachers, you mentioned current teachers without valid teaching credentials. Is that a significant number or is that minimal? What are we looking at there?
They all have teaching credentials that have either been through the state. So they could be a long-term sub, they could be a temporary credential, they could be a clear credential. So, but there are, I think there's 70% are clear credentials, so there's 30% that do not have a clear credential, which means that many of them do not have an EL certification, basically.
To be working with second language students.
Correct. I mean, all teachers need an EL certification.
And that leads me to my next one with the EL decline rate in their dashboard. That correlates. That's a strong correlation right there.
Could be.
If you have 30% of your teachers that aren't trained with meeting EL expectations. Then the next one is, what is the suspension rate?
I think the suspension, I don't have that information right now. They have, their goal is for it to be at 3%. Like in the two subcategories for African American and socioeconomically disadvantaged, those are the two higher rates. One is 24.4% and the other one was, I think, what is it? 13%. No, 24.4 and 14.8%.
Thank you.
Sorry.
We need to give the equal time.
Yeah. We'll get to your question afterwards. Would like to open the,
I have a question.
we're gonna open hearing first, then we'll get to your question afterwards, Dr. Young. Promise. So now I'd like to open the hearing.
And then, Dr. Young, before you ask, you have a question for the district? Because we need to give Griffin their equal time to present as well. Do you want to hold your question? Is it just strictly for the district, or is it also for Griffin? Okay. So why don't we call Griffin forward? Hi, Nick. That was 20 minutes, so you have 20 minutes.
Okay, we prepared a 10-minute conversation
Perfect.
with you, so we'll just stretch out every word for a little longer. I'm joking. We'll try to keep it to the 10 minutes that we were originally allotted. It is a pleasure to be here in front of you again with my colleagues, several students, and a lot of our other community members are online. My name is Nick Driver, superintendent. So Superintendent Aurelio, President Amboy, Vice President Flores, Trustees Young, Hodges, and Fox. Good evening, and I'm really proud to be in front of you all with my colleagues to present our case for the renewal of our petition for Griffin Academy High School tonight. I want to also commend the staff, Assistant Superintendent Tabastio and Charter Coordinator Gardner for their reports. Before I go into our presentation, which will start in a minute, I do want to say that we agree with many of the findings that were found in the staff report. And so we are happy to address some of the questions that I'm sure you have and you already have had. As Trustee Fox, also, we will be sitting down, as Ms. Gardner said, with the district to talk about the addendum that we are committed to provide. So among other things, we provide items that we didn't provide last year in terms of governance. That is an easy fix, and we should have done it last year. But hopefully, this presentation, which we compiled after the staff report a couple of weeks ago, will answer some of the questions. And of course, we're happy to take questions. So I'm here with two of my co-presenters from last time, as well as our interim site director, Alex Inceralde. So helping me with this presentation and answering questions will be my chief academic officer, Margie DiGiorgio, our wellness director, Crystal, thank you, Crystal, for being here, and also Alex and Ceraldi. They're all right here, and we'll be answering questions as well as speaking. If you could go to the first slide. So again, thank you for your recommendation and the recognition that under the law that passed in 2018, we are qualified and eligible for a 5-year renewal under a middle tier under that ed code, and that we have had increased ELA and math scores over the last year. We'll show those scores. We are outperforming the state in both science and ELA, which means that we're doing quite well, and it is our highest performing school in those measurements. The students feel safe and connected to school, feeling a sense of belonging. And as I said earlier, we are committed both to working with the district on an MOU and to working on the addendum that was referenced by in the staff report. If you could go to the next slide. So the mission of all of GTA schools, including Griffin Academy High School, is that it prepares students in Vallejo to be ready for college, career, and life through diverse, innovative instructional programs that focus relentlessly on student academic achievement and social and emotional well-being. We know from your questions last time how important it is, and we know it already, which is why we have a wellness director and a number of wellness coaches, how important social and emotional well-being is. We added it to our mission. That's how important it was. We added it about 4 years ago when I first came on. Our vision is that all GTA graduates will have the self-confidence, academic knowledge, problem solving, and technology skills to experience success in life and contribute locally and globally. And as mentioned in the staff report, even though Griffin Academy High School is only 6 years young, it is part of an organization that has been around for 26 years. It used to be called MIT Academy. Now MIT Academy is one of 4 schools, and we're proud to have Griffin Academy High School as the newest member of our 4-school mini district. With that, I'm going to pass it over to Alex Inceralde to talk about AVID. Alex?
All right, thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Alex Inceralde. I'm the interim site director for Griffin Academy High School. I just want to talk briefly about AVID's school-wide. For those of you who are not aware of AVID, it's a framework for creating an academic culture across the entire school. It involves both AVID classes and also school-wide initiatives. For example, this year we are doing focused note-taking, which is a way for students to not only just take notes, but also process and understand them, as well as tutorials, which is a way for students to learn how to solve problems and through questioning, figure out how they can solve the problems on their own. So it's basically a way for a student to become a better student and become a self-sufficient student. In addition to this, we also have other initiatives. Right now we have claim, evidence, and reasoning. It's something that we're doing right now across both the middle and high school, where students through all their classes have to make claims of various sorts, depending on whether it's science or social studies or English, and explain why, which is a very important skill, I think. And that's, if you can go to the next slide. After that, I want to hand over to Margie.
Good evening, board. Good to see you. As we shared last time, our scores in our math continue to grow, and this is something we continue to focus on. Growth is great. We've got a long ways to go, and we want all of our students to feel competent in math. So you can go to the next slide, because we talked about that last time. And then our ELA scores continue to
grow over time. And again, I'll restate that part of this is the integral way that all of our teachers work together. They plan together, they work together, they strategize together, and they figure out how they can find the intersection of all the subjects. Like Mr. Inseraldi just shared, for example, claims, evidence, reasoning. They're doing it in all their subjects, so it becomes second nature for them. We want them to be able to substantiate their claim, and it's evidenced by increasing scores in our two main content areas, but they're getting exposure and practice across all their content areas. Go ahead. You can see how we are stacking up against the state with our ELA and some of our main subgroups. Keep in mind too, with our very small population, some of our subgroups don't trigger enough students tested to populate a color on the dashboard, and so sometimes that gives an idea about how students may or may not be performing, but it's just, as you guys know, for protection of student data that we can only publish so much, which is one of the reasons why we lean heavily on our MAP scores to really be sure that our students are growing in their skills. If you can go to the next slide, please. Our science, again, and our subgroups continue to outpace the state and are growing. Another area where we continue to focus on intersectionality of the content and how we can bolster it across all of our classes. So here's the map. This is why I was saying we lean a lot towards map, because again, we can look at the data internally regardless of the number of students in each subgroup. There, with a few exceptions, you can see that over time our students continue to demonstrate growth, and the longer we have them, the more growth they can gain. And again, I attribute this to our very strong teaching staff and how they work together and how they intentionally plan and they come back. And again, the looping of students, having the same students over and over. You don't relearn new kids every semester, every year. You get to pick up where you left off. And so the growth, I think, demonstrates that. If you can go to the next slide, please. So this is kind of an eye chart. You guys have it. You can see it closer. But this is our map growth. So keeping in mind that 0 means a student would be at the typical average rate of growth. So we want to see that students are achieving above that. And even the subgroups, again, with a few exceptions, some of them that start below continue to march forward over time. And now I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Crystal O'Connell.
Good evening. I just wanted to highlight a few things for you tonight with wellness. You all saw this slide before, but all of our supports are interwoven within the three-tier support system. Our wellness coaches, I know they came up earlier. I'm the wellness director, so I'm leading that whole group. Our wellness coaches really do offer the support within all 3 tiers. As mentioned last time, we have our social emotional curriculum that they support and work with our advisory teachers on implementing in the classroom. That includes tabling events, activities in the classroom, and monthly themes, which have been very well received. We also have our wellness coach who is clinically supervised as an intern, so she also supports with tier 3 supports. And then the tier 2 are those check-ins as needed, opening our wellness room, groups that we offer to all students as needed by referral. We have our academic advisor who is actively helping students enroll in their college courses for next semester. She is new to our team and doing really, really well. We have our clinically supervised interns who are operating by referral for the tier 3 support, as well as the outsourced stepping stones clinicians who do the same. Our wellness program has been very well received, and one of the highlights, if you want to go to the next slide, is how it's been supportive with reducing our suspension rate. It is something we're working on, something that our team really believes suspension is not always the answer. Sending kids away from school, going into an environment where they're sometimes alone, and allowing them to really access their education, if at all possible, with alternative interventions is what we are aiming for. We have introduced wellness improvement plans, which is really a wraparound restorative approach. understanding that there's always more to the story. There's always something that lies beneath. And it gives us an opportunity to work with all parties involved in whatever the conflict is. We have consequences as part of that plan, but sometimes that can mean campus beautification and really working on like that form of community service. It can mean, enjoying lunch inside after enjoying lunch inside the NPR, coming into the office and working on a project or an assignment in a way to give back as well. Part of that also is restorative conversations. Sometimes that can look like an RJ. Sometimes that is just a restorative conversation about what happened, either student to student, student to teacher, whatever that might look like. Really trying to build the community back up. And we have seen it be very productive with some of our students who have felt more of a challenge behaviorally on campus. They're now coming back and seeing, this is why I'm doing this. This is why this is happening. So part of that is also that one-on-one support. And the projects or lessons that are attached to that restorative plan are really focused on what the reasons are behind their choices. And again, that RJ potentially has really restored community on our campus. Thank you.
Okay, so as Crystal said, with all these things that we're trying, we have experienced a decrease in the suspension rate, and quite, as you know, this is halfway through the year, so this is not a final suspension rate. We have to wait till the end of the year before we really know. But we are very hopeful of the things that we've done. I think that they've been very successful, and every kid is an individual. Every situation is unique, and we treat it that way. And I would say that we try to work very, very hard, and we've redoubled our efforts to work with the parents, to bring them in as partners, to figure out a way to change the behavior, whatever that was. So, we'll be as creative as we have to, and we're going to keep trying and keep working with the parents and all these other things to continue to decrease the suspension rates. Next slide. Thank you. This is the same rate, but just broken out by demographic. So Black, African American, low income, English learners, and Latino students. And again, we're only halfway through the year, so we're going to have to continue to work on this and work with each individual. Next slide, please. And once again, we are an early college high school. We have a lot of things that we're doing here, a lot of things we're trying. We know that we have areas of growth that we have to address, and we will address those. And we just are very thankful to be able to be here and talk to you guys and share some of the good things that we're trying. Next slide, and I'm going to hand over to Marty.
Hi again. So there is concern about the reclassification, but as we know that can be more of a lagging indicator since the LPAC scores are released over the summer, and we have not just an English grade, but our MAP growth that has to be, there's a certain level of growth has to be demonstrated. It's different for each grade level. And so sometimes students have got a 4 in the LPAC, but if they haven't demonstrated growth in the other areas, then we continue to work with them. So compared to last year, this year we've already demonstrated a 19% reclassification at the beginning of this year. So the low rate from last year, which reflected the LPAC scores from the previous year, we're doing better. This year we're implementing some new ELD curriculum through the ERWC model, and that's proving to be well received. The teachers are loving it. We are training all of our teachers across all content area more and more on effective ELD strategies to use in all the classes. I agree. That's a huge part of when students can struggle is if not all the teachers understand how to help. And so we're having our ELD coordinator do PD with our staff to make sure that they have skills and strategies and that teachers are using similar skills and strategies in their classes so that it becomes, again, second nature for students. And we're being more strategic with our use of our advisory to group English language learners together and then using our EL aides to help push in, to help support in giving them that extra time and extra support in their subjects. And the college career, you've heard a lot about that. We do as Mr. Inseraldi say, we have some areas of growth. We're continuing to increase accountability, tracking support, structure, and organization, again, of how we use our support staff to help give students the extra help they need to track so that we don't find out too late. Students are struggling. We want to be on it right from the beginning and supporting them all along. So we continue to focus on how we can improve that system as well. And so our school, as you guys have read about in the petition, is a small but mighty, very committed group of staff, incredibly committed staff, students who are very passionate about their relationships with one another, with the staff, and committed to trying to find their path forward. And we're all in it together. It's definitely a community effort. So we thank you for your time, and we definitely ask for your vote to renew our charter so we can continue to do the work with our families that we've been doing. It's just getting good. Okay, thank you.
We have a few cards that we,
So I'd like to do these comment cards on this item and then turn it over to the board for questions and then a motion after that. I'm going to go ahead and there's 4 cards submitted on this item. Yesenia Ortega Guzman, if you can come forward. And Carrie Newt, Janaya Taggart, and Rayanne Shudari.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Yesenia Ortega Guzman, and I am a senior at Griffin High School. I am also my school's board representative, and I've been a student at Griffin since 7th grade. So I have spent a large part of my life growing up in this school and community. One of the biggest reasons I value Griffin is because it is a small school. The small size makes it harder for negative or bad influences to take over, and it allows students to be held accountable for their actions. This is one of the main reasons my parents decided to enroll me here. They wanted me in a school where I would be safe, supported, and surrounded by people who cared about my future. Another thing I truly appreciate about Griffin is the strong relationships between students, teachers, and staff. Teachers know us by name. They notice when something is wrong, and they genuinely want us to succeed. That kind of support is not something every student gets at every school, and it makes a real difference in our motivation and confidence. The friends and sense of community at Griffin are also incredibly important because the school is small and students build meaningful friendships and look out for one another. There is a strong feeling of belonging here, and that creates a positive environment where students feel comfortable being themselves and focused on their goals. This sense of community is especially important in Vallejo, where violence is common and many students face challenges outside of school. Griffin provides a safe and structured space where students can stay on track, avoid negative paths, and focus on their education. For many of us, Griffin is not just a school, it is a safe place. So I really ask that you guys renew our petition. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Carrie Newt.
Hello and good evening, everyone. My name is Carrie Newt, and I am a sophomore at Griffin Academy. I have been attending at Griffin Academy for 4 years now and have been here to personally witness the growth of our school. Since I have gotten here, I have learned so many new things throughout the years with me being here with both communication and academics. When you attend Griffin Academy, you aren't just attending. You're being acknowledged and appreciated from the moment you walk onto campus. Most students have their own individual relationships with the staff, so it's much easier to address when things are bothering you, when you want something new for the school, or when you are enjoying something. The staff here don't just treat you like a number, they make you feel comfortable and like you have someone in your corner. Not only has the school helped me learn new things academically, but also socially. It's helped me learn how to communicate through my emotions, how to have a better work ethic, and of course with the help of our college courses, stay on track with everything else you have on your shoulders. I'm asking that you renew our petition so that many other students like me can continue to have a safe space academically and continue to feel comfortable while at school. Thank you.
Thank you. Janaya Taggart.
Hello, everyone. My name is Janaya Taggart, but I go by Naya, and I'm a sophomore at Griffin Academy. I've been here since last school year, and in that time, I've seen how much this school truly supports its students. One of the biggest strengths at Griffin is its small classes. Because classes are smaller, teachers can give more individual attention which helps students understand the material and get help quickly when they need it. Griffin has pushed me and my peers to grow both academically and socially. The environment encourages us to work hard while also feeling supported. The school also offers extracurricular activities that bring students together, and I enjoy being part of that community. Griffin is a diverse and welcoming place, and it has felt supported from the moment I stepped onto campus. While there is also room for improvement, there is also positive impacts that the students. I'm proud to be a student here and confident that Griffin Academy deserves to continue serving our community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ryan?
Good evening. My name is Rayanne, and I'm a sophomore at Griffin Academy. I've been attending this school for 5 years now, and while there's always room for growth, there are also very good things about the school. 2 things I like is the way they support initiative and how they listen, allowing us to bring our ideas to life. For example, I have always wanted to be on a science Olympiad team, and when I proposed this idea to the school, the staff supported me in bringing my ideas to life. Now we have over 25 students committed to expanding their STEM knowledge. Attending Griffin has helped me and my peers get an early start on college courses and be active in community service. Volunteering leaves a significant impact on the community, and the way that Griffin encourages it is really meaningful. My extracurriculars at Griffin include playing on varsity volleyball, serving as captain on the soccer team, starting the Nature Welfare Club in addition to the Science Olympiad team, and being active in ASB as 10th grade president and ASB publicity chair. Griffin should continue to exist because of the close-knit community and academic success it offers. Griffin fosters academic excellence by encouraging dual enrollment, supporting initiative, and maintaining a small teacher-to-student ratio, allowing individualized support. Therefore, I believe renewing Griffin's charter petition is not only beneficial but necessary to preserve a school that empowers students academically, supports their ideas, and prepares them for success beyond high school. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. That's all the public comment on this item, so we can turn it back over to the board for questions.
Or do you guys have any questions? Trustee Dean?
I have a question for Griffin. It's about the wellness program.
As I said, I'm not usually going to be the right person to answer these questions, but that's why I have 3 colleagues. Ms. O'Connell is going to be the best person to answer this question. Mr. Hodges?
Hi.
Hi, thank you. I really like your restorative justice practices. And when you showed the slide for your decrease in suspensions, it was, do you account for, well, do you think your restorative justice practices counts for that huge drop in suspensions?
I do think a number of things account for it, but I think our restorative practices is a big part of that. Coming up with alternatives to suspension and not just using that as a Band-Aid, but understanding that once you rip the Band-Aid off, the problem's still there. So really being able to come back to the table after whatever consequence has to be initiated, because let's be honest, there's a time and place for everything. But even if there is a suspension, for instance, the goal is no, but even if there is, we come back and we say, okay, so what happened? What do we do? How do we resolve the conflict in avoidance of it happening again, or decreasing the likelihood of it happening again?
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Vice President Flores?
I got a few items I want to just kind of get some clarity on. During the district's report, they mentioned something about 70% graduation, and can you clarify that a little bit more about what was meant by that?
Yeah, I think that is admittedly very low number, given the fact that we have an 87% graduation rate and our goal is 90% plus, and we believe we are on track to increase from the current 87. So I believe that was just not a typo, but, something that got in there that we need to fix, we will be happy to work with the district and fix that in the addendum, because it is an unacceptably low number.
Okay. I think one of the main concerns going over the report, hearing, is it feels like Griffin is building the plane as it's flying it. There's a lot of things that need to be added to this addendum that, in my opinion, I think the school should already have in place, should have had in place. So, one of the things I was looking at was you're going to require all students to have 30 college credits to graduate, and it was mentioned that there's no set number on what the actual number of credits required for graduation. It's either 240 or 245. I mean, I think that, how can something that simple not have already been established, taken care of? But and one of the concerns that's brought up is that in the ask for renewal, it specifically calls out high achieving students, but what about the rest of us? That would be my take. On paper, when I was going through high school, I was not considered a high achieving student, even though I could have handled it, but so again, I think my concern is that it goes back to that anecdote that I said. It just seems like the school is being reactive instead of proactive in how it approaches education, where it's kind of just slapping things together as things pop up. Oh, let me fix this. Oh, let me fix that. Oh, let me take care of this. Whereas our high schools are required to have things there by law, and so just there's a lot of work. It seems that Griffin needs to have, and it's worrisome that by law there are only certain criteria that allows us to deny your petition. But based on the information I received tonight, I couldn't in good conscience vote in favor of it. But by law, there's certain things that only allow me to vote no, or would allow the board to vote no. So a lot of work. I mean, at the end of the day, these students still are Vallejo residents, are still citizens of Vallejo. They're going to interact with our students. They're going to become the doctors, the teachers, the painters, of our community. So I just see a lot of work that needs to still be done. That should have been done, in my opinion.
Thank you, Vice President Flores. Even though I don't think there was a question there, I'm happy to just respond by saying that because of COVID and because of demographic shifts, I would say that all public schools in California and maybe the country are always looking to improve, and in some cases, especially with COVID, have to be reactive. It's just, something that is much more powerful than we were, was COVID. We introduced a whole wellness program, partly because our students, all students, but our students also were struggling with social and emotional health issues. We are a very high-performing school. So this is the highest performing school in our network. So we know we're doing something right. Our test scores are up. Our MAP scores are also up. So we are definitely not just targeting high-performing students. We're targeting all of our students. Our commitment is to every single one of our students. And it shows in the data that we are doing well. We're not doing as well as we want, but we are doing well. We know, and you heard it from the students, you heard it from us, we've got a long way to go to make improvements that need to be made. And you're right, in some cases, they should have already been made. In other cases, we have a constraint of having a 170 student high school. It's going to grow next year, but 170 students is a very small number of students. Therefore, we have a smaller budget than most schools to be able to do everything we want. So I would just leave it there. I don't know if you have anything additional, but I appreciate the concern. We have many of the same concerns as you do.
So I think if there's a question there, because I saw that there's a deadline of July 1st to have the written addendum in place of everything that needs to be done. Will it be done? Will it be ready and in place and the program's going, you know? And I will argue that having an 18% preparedness for college career, I wouldn't call Vallejo High a successful high school if that was the case, you know, so. But, so the question is, July 1st, is the addendum, is everything going to be planned and ready to go and met?
Thank you for your question. Last year, as you recall, we prepared a 400-page document for MIT Middle School that we successfully worked together to approve for a new 5-year charter. That was a mountain of work. We did that again this year, this last summer and fall, and produced, and you've had a chance to read, another 400-page document. The addendum that we're talking about is probably not a 400-page document. I'm guessing it's a 10 to 50-page document. We are absolutely committed to and will abide by that deadline. It feels like a meeting between VCUSD staff and GTA staff would be helpful in us understanding everything about the addendum. But if that's not something that is possible, we will do it ourselves and absolutely submit it by the deadline, and hopefully well before the deadline so that we can get feedback and improve on it. Yep.
Trustee Young?
I noticed, well, I've been on here for a long time, but this is the last time you came up for a proposal, some of these same things that we identified were then. They're still there now. So I'm trying to figure out why. Because they were supposed to address within that window of time that we gave you in order to address them, but they're popping up now. The suspension. Did you ever do a rubrics that did graduated suspension of what you do before you suspend?
Yes, we did.
Something, okay.
Yeah.
So the 1% suspension rate that had, I think is 1 point some, like in one of these slides.
I think it was the African-American percentage has gone
Right.
down to 2.9%. So under
But
the
you don't-
goal that we
what's your-
set for ourselves, down from, 24%. So pretty dramatic drop down. Is that the percentage you're talking about?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we're very proud of that. And as was stated before, it's only halfway through the year. So we
So,
know that it might
yeah.
not stay at 2.9%, but we're committed to working on all of our subgroups' suspension rates and getting them down as close as we can to 3%, which is our goal, or lower. And we've got practices like our wellness director, Ms. O'Connell, said that we're working on. We're working on a number of things. And part of it is due to the wake-up call from the state around the importance of suspension rates. So we appreciate the state. We appreciate the district's focus on the lowering of suspension rates, because those are important. You are important partners for us in making sure that we are focusing on the right things. So we appreciate the oversight and the partnership.
The other question is that one of the suggestions had to do with the academic counselor.
Yeah, we have an academic advisor, which is slightly different job description than a school counselor, but that position, that person in that position.
They have a counseling credential?
They do not have a counseling credential. That's why they're called an academic advisor, but they provide many of the same services. We also have counselors like Ms. O'Connell who can speak to that side of the counseling.
Because actually,
area.
the description of the advisory should be the counselor's job description. Because that's what they're credentialed to do. The other question is, how are you going to address some of the concerns that we have, that we presented to you? Because some of them are duplicated, because I would look back over the last submission, and some of them are still there. So how are you going to address those again?
That was a different school, and I think the thing that the district is doing differently this year, which we appreciate, is asking for an addendum. Last year, there was no addendum requested, and admittedly, things like the selection of a new school board member was not addressed, and it absolutely will be addressed. Now, that's something that will be a fix for all 4 schools, because all 4 schools have the same governing board. So we'll fix it for Griffin Academy. It'll be in the addendum. We'll also fix it for MIT Middle School, which you noticed last year was a problem. It'll also be fixed for the other 2 schools as well. I would say that's a really strong mechanism. I will also note that Ms. Gardner will be coming out at some point in the spring for 3 to 4 days to do a thorough oversight. And I believe that that will help us have a dialogue about the addendum and have a dialogue in general about how our schools are running. So we look forward to that oversight, on-site oversight.
I guess I never asked you this. Do you guys have a strategic plan?
We have a 5-year strategic plan. We're about 2.5 years into it, almost halfway through it. Actually,
So some
exactly
of those
2.5 years
things
into it.
should have been in your strategic plan that we're addressing now. Are they?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Pretty much all those things. I mean, that strategic plan was developed 2.5 years ago by a bunch of community members and staff members, and we have seen things more recently than 2.5 years ago that we need to add to whatever plan it is to make sure it's on there.
I was fixing to say,
So,
you need to add some of the things
Sometimes things
to
need
it.
to be added to. Yep, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Fox?
With all that's been said, and you are going to be working on the addendums, I'd like to make a motion to approve action item 10A, resolution 5103.
Do I have a second? Trustee Trustee Hodges?
Second.
We have a motion by Trustee Fox and a second by Trustee Flores. Roll call, please.
Trustee Fox.
Aye.
Trustee Hodges.
Aye.
Trustee Young. Vice President Flores.
No.
And President Amboy.
Aye.
And the motion passes 4 yes, 1 no.
Thank you so much.
And this concludes the public hearing. Item 10B, approval of Resolution 5105 in matter of discontinuance of classified positions due to lack of work and/or funds for the 2026-2027 school year. Matt Chamberlain, Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources.
Thank you, President Amboy, Vice President Flores, trustees. I am seeking approval of resolution number 5105 in the matter of the discontinuance of classified positions due to lack of work and/or lack of funds for the 26-27 school year. It is recommended that the governing board approve resolution number 5105 in the matter of the discontinuance of the classified positions. Resolution 5105. Whereas Education Code Sections 45114, 45117, 45298, and 45308 permit the governing board to reduce or discontinue classified services and terminate the employment of affected classified employees not later than the beginning of the following school year due to lack of work and/or lack of funds. And whereas the governing board of the Vallejo City Unified School District has determined that it shall be necessary to reduce or discontinue the classified services of the district as described herein, no later than the beginning of the 26-27 school year due to the lack of work and/or lack of funds. And whereas it shall be necessary at the end of the 25-26 school year to terminate the employment of certain classified employees of the district as a result of this reduction or discontinuance in the classified services. And whereas it is of the opinion of the board that it is in the best interest of the district, including the welfare of the district schools and pupils, to reduce or discontinue the classified services and as a result terminate the number of classified employees of the district herein set forth. Now therefore be it resolved by the governing board of the Vallejo City Unified School District that the foregoing recitals are true and incorporated herein by this reference. 2, that the following classified services be reduced or eliminated as indicated commencing with the 26-27 school year. 3, that the number of reduction or elimination of classified services set forth herein and the number of classified employees of the district be reduced pursuant to Education Code 45117. 4, that the district superintendent or designee be directed to send appropriate notices to all employees whose services shall be terminated by virtue of this action pursuant to Education Code Section 45117. Being here this evening, it's important to mention, as previously stated since the start of the school year, no one wants to take part in reduction in force proceedings. It certainly doesn't feel good, and no one is happy about it. That said, I want to remind the board and inform the listening public about the conclusion paragraph from the recent correspondence from the Solano County Office of Education. Quote, fiscal year 26-27 will be a pivotal year for the district. The district's multi-year projections indicate that without the full implementation of the 214.95 FTE in staffing reductions, the district faces the risk of negative fund balances in 26-27 and 27-28. While reducing this level of staffing will be challenging, it is achievable and necessary to restore long-term fiscal stability. It is equally important that these positions not be added back in 26-27 or future years, as prior experience demonstrates that doing so undermines the district's financial recovery efforts. The district cannot continue to operate at a staffing level that exceeds its fiscal capacity. Continuing the right size of the organization is essential to stabilizing finances, avoiding further fiscal distress, and preserving the district's ability to serve students effectively. Sincerely, Dr. Nicole Parr, County Office of Education Superintendent.
And we have 2 comment cards.
Yeah, so let's do the public comment on this item, and then we'll turn it over to the board. Edwin Crane, and then Mary Crane Morrow after that.
Hello, my name is Edwin. I go by Butch Crane. For the last 7 years, I've held the position of the senior lead grounds. All of the leads are working positions, not office positions. I've been employed by the district for 14 years now. VCUSD has a no bullying policy, yet the superintendent and the executive board are doing just that, sending out emails that state all of these jobs are either being eliminated or realigned to something else, but not saying what is going to happen. And by doing so is creating major panic amongst the employees. If the district has a plan already on, however it's going to play out, why hasn't it been attached to the original email? If they don't have a plan figured out completely, why did they send out the email in the first place? By eliminating all these positions, you will be losing a lot of valuable information that the employees have gained from all the years' service to the district that outside contractors won't have. I can't see how you as a governing board can vote yes for this plan without the next phase being shared by the district for everyone to see. And if you have seen it, why hasn't it sent out to the employees? CSA didn't create the budget deficit, but is being pushed to burden the financial burden on their own backs by either losing their jobs, possibly having to do someone else's job plus their own jobs. How do you expect us to keep the morale high with everyone not knowing what their future will bring come July 1st? We are all dedicated hard workers, but the lack of information is making it hard to keep up people motivated. By eliminating these jobs, the district will spend more money to have the same work done handled by outside contractors, considering the fact that they have to pay prevailing wages, plus they will add profit and overhead to their contracts. Prevailing wages are higher than the district employees are paid. If the district is in such financial trouble, why are we still renting this building when we have empty district-owned properties in town that are sufficient in size to accommodate this district office? Thank you.
Good evening, Superintendent and board members. I am Mary Crane Morrow, born and raised in Vallejo, and I retired from VCUSD 1 year ago after 26 and a half years of employment. Retired, but still a concerned community member. I have seen a lot of changes come and go in those 26 and a half years. I'm very concerned about the proposed elimination of so many CSEA positions. How can you vote in favor of this without clear direction of what is next? Who will do the work? Mr. Chamberlain just said earlier that this EMS study will build trust. Yet this potential review of all job descriptions at a reasonable expense is coming after the vote to eliminate so many positions, which equals even more employees. This says the clear direction has not yet been identified. In the meantime, how do you expect employees to come to work with the same high morale when they don't know if they will be employed in July? How do you expect parents to want to bring their kids to our schools with all this uncertainty? Yes, the community sees and hears what is going on. CSEA are the lowest paid positions in the district, the smallest savings in that budget reduction you have to make. But they are hardworking, dedicated, and connect with students daily. The numbers that Mr. Chamberlain just shared, the list on the board said 139 point something FTE are classified. But SCOE says 214.9 FTE reductions are necessary. That's 64% of that is CSEA, the lowest paid employees. Who are the administrators that are highly paid, and no disrespect meant, but who are they going to supervise if all of the classified employees are gone? Who's going to do this work to protect the students and help encourage them to be at school and learn what they need to learn? I am a retired, active, classified employee and very much a Vallejo community member, and I will be here the long term. Thank you.
May I have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 5105? Or any, excuse me. President Fox, we have questions?
Mr. Chamberlain, I wanted to ask you to come back. You mentioned negative fund balance rating for the district with the county or the state. Can you clarify that more? What does that mean? Or what would that mean to the district?
That means that our budgets would not be qualified, and we would have a negative budget rating with the county.
But what can that in turn to?
That can trigger going back into receivership, or at least pushing us towards that direction again.
We just came out of receivership last June.
Correct.
After being in it for 20 years. And we've worked so hard to get out of receivership to stay solvent. What is this? So the state and the county are both telling us if we do not make the cuts necessary, they will take us over and they'll make the decisions instead of local people who live here, which we're local people who live here.
Correct.
To make the decisions.
Correct. It would tie one hand behind our back, definitely.
Thank you.
Trustee Young?
My question is, the number that we're cutting, that number was based on how many, student population? Where did it come from? How was it accumulated? Because we, as this is a key word, declining enrollment. Mm-hmm. I've been in the district 40-plus years, so I know it's declining enrollment, but I haven't noticed a declining in some cuts. So how does that fit into that aspect?
Yeah, the budget determination was based upon this year's budget. We don't have a crystal ball to be able to determine what next year is going to look like. We certainly hope that we're in a better financial situation. We have more students and our ADA is increasing. But again, we have to rely upon the numbers that we have, and so we're using this year's numbers to reflect the need for meeting what the expectations are from not only last year's cuts that were not made, but also the cuts that this year need to be made to continue to make us solvent.
So the letter that we received from the county is saying that we need to do 200 and something?
214.95.
How many are we doing?
142.256 classified. Next month, we'll bring back the certificated reduction.
Okay, that was the next question. When are we gonna bring back certificated?
Yeah, February 11th.
Okay.
You're welcome.
May I have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 5105? Trustee Flores?
Make a motion to approve Resolution 5105.
Trustee Hodges?
Second.
We have a motion by Vice President Flores and a second by Trustee Hodges. Roll call, please.
Trustee Fox.
Aye.
Trustee Hodges.
Aye.
Trustee Young.
Aye.
Vice President Flores.
Aye.
And President Amboy.
Aye.
The motion passes with 5 yes.
Thank you. Resolution 5106, retroactive confirmation of publicly available salary schedule in compliance with the California Code of Regulations.
Thank you, President Amboy. I'm seeking approval for resolution number 5106, retroactive confirmation of publicly available salary schedules in compliance with the California Code of Regulations. Some points to bring up before I read the resolution. This item is being brought forward at the discretion of CalPERS. And CalPERS notified the district that our salary schedules needed to be clearly identified of the time base for each pay rate, hourly, daily, monthly, and annual, as required by California Code of Regulations, Title II, Section 570.5A4. CalPERS further requires that the clarification be approved by the governing board retroactively for 4 fiscal years. The action before you does not change any salary amounts. It is strictly for compliance and documentation to meet the regulatory CalPERS requirements and avoid audit findings. Key points, this does not, again, change any salary information. It is required by CalPERS, and if the board does not approve, the district can be subject to CalPERS audit findings or corrective action related to the compensation reporting. So, let's see here. Whereas the Vallejo City Unified School District is the contracting employer with the California Public Employees Retirement System, CalPERS, and whereas Government Code Sections 20630, 20636, and subsection 236.1, that require the compensation be reported to CalPERS be based upon publicly available pay schedules adopted by the Employees Governing Board. And whereas California Code of Regulations Title II, Section 570.5 establishes the requirements for publicly available pay schedules used to determine compensation earnable. And whereas CCR Section 570.5A4 requires that each pay rate clearly be identified by the applicable time base. And whereas the district received notification from CalPERS directing the district to demonstrate compliance with CCR Section 570.5A4 retroactively for fiscal years 22-23, 23-24, 24-25, and 25-26. And whereas CalPERS required the revised pay schedules be presented to and approved by the governing board and the documentation of such approval be submitted as evidence and compliance. And whereas the district revised its classified salary schedules to clarify time-based information without changing salary amounts. And whereas the district also revised its certificated salary schedules as proactive measures to align formatting and content across all employee groups and to ensure accurate retirement reporting for certificated employees and previously participated in CalPERS and elected to continue CalPERS membership. Now therefore be it resolved that the governing board of the Vallejo City Unified School District hereby adopts and approves the revised publicly available classified and certificated salary schedules for fiscal years 2022-23, 23-24, 24-25, and 25-26 as presented to ensure compliance with the California Code of Regulations, Title II, Section 50.5A4, and be it resolved that the superintendent or designee is authorized to submit this resolution, revised salary schedules, and related board documentation to CalPERS as required. And be it further resolved that the district shall continue to maintain publicly available salary schedules that are transparent, consistent, and compliant with applicable retirement system requirements.
Thank you. Trustee Fox?
I'd like to motion to approve action item 10B, resolution 5105.
Trustee Hodges?
Second.
Just to clarify, Trustee Fox, you mean 10C 5106, correct? That's
Yes.
yeah, perfect.
Sorry.
No
Yes.
worries.
We have a motion by Trustee Fox and a second by Trustee Hodges. Roll call, please.
Trustee Fox.
Aye.
Trustee Hodges.
Aye.
Trustee Young.
Aye.
Vice President Flores.
Aye.
And President Amboy.
Aye.
And the motion passes 5 yes.
Thank you.
Action item 10D, adoption of resolution 5108, school attendance boundary change. Cooper Elementary, Federal Terrace Elementary, Stephen Manor Elementary, Glen Cove Elementary, Wardlaw Elementary, and Patterson Elementary. Superintendent Heather DePasio, please. And
Good evening, and my colleague, Assistant Superintendent Fernandez, we're going to be sharing some information with you regarding the Resolution 5108 of the school attendance boundaries. As you know, with the closure of Highland, Lincoln, and Pennycook, it was necessary to redraw district boundaries. So over the last several weeks, district staff and our partners at GFS have worked collaboratively to develop a boundary adjustment report and recommendation that provides us the best opportunity to meet the facility and programmatic needs of the district and serve community needs. The adjusted boundary map before you maintains adequate space for key programs and minimizes transportation impact. Assistant Superintendent Fernandez and I will share the key elements of the proposed boundaries. GFS was a natural partner in this work as they've been engaged with the process through the equity impact analysis and their engagement in the community through the 7-Eleven and study sessions. The report marries the efforts of the original 7-Eleven and the EIA site capacity analysis with the detailed analysis of room usage at each site that was completed by district staff. You may recall me talking about what really can fit and what reasonably can fit. So those two different ideas were married together to make sure we came up with a map that takes into account the needs of each school campus. As an overview, this report and resolution reflect the closure of Highland, Lincoln, and Pennycook elementary schools, boundaries adjustments to Glen Cove, Wardlaw, Patterson, Cooper, Federal Terrace, and Stephen Manor to welcome new students to their new school of residence. The boundaries for Cave, Dan Mini, Solano, Wiedemann, and Vallejo Charter are unaffected by any of these changes. By way of background, I want to make sure that we revisit the timeline that brings us to today. On August 20th, the 7-Eleven committee completed their report. In November, on November 19th, the EIA report was completed. And of course, on December 17th, the board took action on school closure. On January 21st, next week, the district staff intend to open registration. Successful opening of registration requires that the new boundaries are approved. Any delay in opening registration could have a negative impact on enrollment and our ability to welcome our new families. Additionally, we have a legal obligation to provide ample notice to the families who are impacted by closure. We also want to remain competitive with the private and charter schools for new enrollment, so we want to open soon. Lastly, making this decision today allows us to finalize the plans for the best possible placement of all the specialized programs like special education, child development, ensuring that staff is prepared to accept students on day one. Beginning next week, we will be meeting with parent communities from the schools impacted by closure. One of the pieces of information that families will require is the location of their next school of residence. Assistant Superintendent Fernandez will now provide an overview of other key elements of the report.
Thank you, Assistant Superintendent Tapacio, Board Superintendent, Community. From an operations and facilities standpoint, timing and planning are very critical. We have a big program ahead of us to manage and make sure our families and our students and our staff are comfortable with their new locations. The boundary recommendations before the board are grounded in a room-by-room capacity analysis, completed by district staff and updated with assumptions originally developed from, as Assistant Superintendent Tapacio mentioned earlier, our 7-11 committee and our equity impact analysis. Those processes and the work examined how classrooms are currently used and where our flexibility exists while protecting our instructional and support spaces. This approach ensures that receiving schools have adequate general education capacity, can thoughtfully place specialized programs such as special education and child development, and avoid repeated classroom or program moves in the future years. Try to limit that as much as possible. Approval of attendance boundaries tonight also allows the district to open registration on schedule and plan those staffing and classroom placements responsibly, and really align a lot of the facility work that needs to be done and short-term improvements that we're trying to bring this summer. Moving on to transportation. Transportation has really been a key consideration throughout this process. You heard it during the 7-11 process, that report. The EIA also had some pieces of information. And so staff has evaluated transportation impact using existing board policy thresholds. For elementary schools, that's 1.5 miles. And based on this analysis, approximately 134 students, based on a snapshot of demographic data that we have, the most updated one, are estimated to newly qualify for transportation services under those proposed boundaries. If the board approves those boundary updates, we will evaluate walk zones, route safety, pickup, drop-off, potential impact on ride times, especially for our younger students, and the operational and fiscal implications of expanded transportation services. Our planning will also consider students who may require additional support, including students with IEPs and other unique needs. And moving forward tonight really allows us to engage in that route planning, dive deeper into that, coordinate safety and walkability reviews, and communicate clearly with families on what those expectations are, how they're going to get to school. Assistant Superintendent Tapacio mentioned we need to tell them where they're going to go. We also need to tell them how they're going to get there and what's there to welcome them at their new schools. So adequate planning and time is essential to ensure that we can communicate safe, predictable routes to school. In closing, tonight's recommendation reflects a clear and intentional sequence, understanding our fiscal and enrollment realities, our process for engaging the community and conducting these analyses, making those difficult decisions, and now taking the operational step required to implement those decisions properly, responsibly. For our families, this means clarity. For our staff, that means adequate time to prepare. I think one of the things we learned is providing more time by approving these difficult decisions earlier gives us additional time to plan, prepare, and really improve upon what we've done in the past. And for these reasons, staff recommends the board approve the proposed attendance boundaries, and we're prepared to answer questions at this time.
Board, do you have any questions? Trustee Flores?
Thank you for your report. Is it premature to have some sort of dollar figure as to transportation costs going up or down based on the proposed boundaries? Has anything like that been looked at yet?
Yeah, so we've done an initial analysis of the operating, or the proposed boundary that we have tonight. To put it into perspective, we would need at least 3 more buses and 3 more bus drivers. So you saw the cost for 2 buses tonight. Additional capital funds can be dedicated to that end to pick up another bus. We may have others we want to replace, but it's been several years since we purchased a new bus, and there are some needs there. So continuing to invest in that is important. On the driver's side, it's important that we begin that recruitment now, and we continue to cultivate training and those staff members sticking with us throughout the next process. So those will be some jobs that will be available.
So just kind of follow up with that is, so far as the purchasing of the buses, does that factor in, does that come from money that was going to be saved by the school closures? Because I think that's what the community would say, you know, hey, we closed schools to save money, but now we're spending money for buses. But now knowing how money, how a school budget works, that not everything comes out of one bucket, that there's assigned things, the money for buses aren't going to impact the proposed savings of the school closures, of the staff reduction, et cetera. Is that correct?
That is correct. That comes out of a capital fund. And we're, for the buses tonight, we used Fund 40, which is capital outlay.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Hodges?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution 5104.
5108.
By 107.
8.
Got the wrong ones on, that's what it is.
Can I get a second, please?
My God.
Trustee Dr. Young?
A second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Fox.
Aye.
Trustee Hodges.
Aye.
Trustee Young. Vice President Flores.
Aye.
And President Amboy.
Aye.
The motion passes 5 yes.
Moving on to action item 10E, adoption of resolution of 5104, intention to consider a future bond election and authorize preliminary feasibility activities.
Thank you, President Amboy. Tonight's item is about long-term stewardship of our facilities and ensuring that our schools are positioned to support teaching and learning well into the future. This is a strategic initiative. As the board knows, one of the pillars of our strategic plan is providing safe, supportive, high-quality learning environments for our staff and our students. Many of our facilities are aging, and while we have made important progress with prior bond investments, the scope of capital needs exceeds what we can reasonably address with existing remaining capital funds and through our operating budget alone. This includes modernizing classrooms, including safety and security, addressing maintenance, and ensuring our campus support a 21st century learning environment. This can be significantly addressed with extensions of our current bond tax rates, as my colleagues will talk to in just a bit. This agenda item is intentionally proactive. This is really about strategic foresight. The purpose of tonight is not to ask the board to make a decision about a bond measure, but rather to ensure you that we have the information, the analysis, and the options you will need to make an informed decision in the future and in the coming months. Good governance requires that we understand our capacity, our financial capacity, legal parameters, and community considerations well before an action is considered and contemplated. To support this work, we have invited 2 experienced advisors to provide context and guidance. First, I'd like to introduce Jeremy Hauser from Team Civics. Team Civics specializes in strategy, communications, and community engagement for school facility funding measures. Jeremy will help us frame how districts think about aligning those facility needs with community priorities and the importance of very early feasibility work. Jeremy's firm worked with us in 2018 on the last bond. Joining him is Jeff Pickett from ISOM Advisors, the district's municipal The ISOM Advisors works extensively with California K-12 school districts with bond capacity, tax rate scenarios, and long-term financial planning. Jeff will walk us through high-level information about bonding capacity, legal constraints, and potential scenarios, again, strictly to inform and equip the board, not to recommend a specific course of action tonight. Again, a clear high-level context is the goal tonight, and outline some options and considerations available. And if the board chooses to move forward at a future date, we are grounded in solid analysis and data. With that, I'd like to introduce Jeremy Hauser. And we have a presentation.
Thank you, Ruben. Thank you, President Amboy and Board Trustees for having me. My name is Jeremy Hauser. I'm a founding partner with Team Civics. We are a political consulting firm that specializes in helping school districts and other public agencies determine the feasibility of a revenue measure and undertake the next steps to place that measure on the ballot. We're going to take a few minutes tonight to walk you guys through a little bit about our firms, the do's and don'ts for a bond measure, as Ruben alluded to, your current bonding capacity and future tax rate options, and then next steps should you decide to move forward. So first, a little bit about me and my firm. As I mentioned, we have developed an expertise in doing this exact work, helping public agencies achieve their revenue goals through public ballot measures. Oftentimes when folks think about a bond measure or a parcel tax or another ballot measure, they think about a lawn sign in someone's lawn 2 days before Election Day. But in our experience, that work happens long before Election Day in understanding first and foremost what your community is comfortable supporting, understanding that in terms of a tax rate, but also in terms of potential projects to be funded with a bond measure, and then really communicating your facilities needs to the community before you act as a board and decide to place a measure on the ballot. As Ruben mentioned, my business partner worked with this district previously on Measure S in November of 2018. We were very happy to be successful in that election and actually exceed the 2/3 mark for approval. And as you can see on this slide, we really have done work throughout the Bay Area and state, really helping districts achieve their revenue goals. I'm proud to have raised over $25 billion for schools through public ballot measures. And with that, I'll kick it to Jeff to talk a little bit about his firm as well.
Great, thank you for having us this evening. As mentioned, my name is Jeff Pickett. I work with ISOM Advisors. We're a bond financial advisor, and we work with schools and colleges throughout the state on bond measures, similar to what we are going to be talking about this evening. A little bit more about myself. I've been doing this for over 25 years now. As I think about that, I don't feel that old, but I've been doing it a long time. Just some of our credentials at our firm. On this slide right here, we work with many of the local districts. You see some of the ones highlighted, ones that are next door neighbors, and ones that are regional neighbors. We have a lot of experience doing this in the Bay Area, the East Bay, and up and down the state of California. We work with districts of all different sizes, types, political leanings, the conservative counties, the liberal counties, again, up and down the state. ISOM Advisors is the leading firm who does this work in the state, and we have been for over 10 years. We've worked with hundreds of bond campaigns, working with firms like Jeremy and Team Civics very often, and once a bond campaign passes, we assist districts in selling their bonds, working with the county and various parties to successfully sell bonds.
Yeah, I'm going to just take a few minutes to kind of orient ourselves to the legal parameters of a bond measure. I think it's important context as we start looking at numbers and potential timelines. So I've just got a slide here to kind of talk about that, and then I'll kick it back to Jeff to walk us through your tax base and what might be available to you in the future. So first, with specifically Prop 39 bonds, and we're talking about Prop 39 bonds tonight because they have a really key approval threshold. Unlike other special taxes, which require 2/3 vote, a Prop 39 bond requires a 55% yes vote. We found that 12 percentage point difference can oftentimes be the difference between winning and losing, and so we're going to be talking tonight about the parameters of those measures specifically. So as a unified district, you are limited with how much you can seek in any one election. You can seek up to $60 per 100,000 of assessed valuation. You can always ask for less. You cannot ask for more. Prop 39 bonds must also be held on regularly scheduled elections. You cannot call a special election to conduct a bond measure like you can for a parcel tax. Our next upcoming election is in June. It's likely a little too soon for us. After that, we've got the gubernatorial general election in November. Prop 39 bonds are required to have an oversight committee that checks the use of funds against your approved project list to make sure everything is being spent appropriately. Bonds are limited to facilities and capital improvements. They can't be used for salaries or compensation or programs. They must be used for buildings and facilities. And they require a 2/3 vote of the board in order to be placed on the ballot. So with a 5-member board, you need 4 out of 5 yes votes in order to get on that ballot. And then this last note here is just to state that they can be levied district-wide, or you can draw what are called school facilities improvement districts, which are subsets of the district, and only levy them within those areas. So with that, I'll kick it back to Jeff to walk you all through the numbers and your current bonding capacity.
Okay, thank you, Jeremy. And as I walk through these slides, feel free to stop me, raise your hand, or just yell out at me if you have any questions. Some of this stuff, if you're not used to it, not used to the terminology, it can be a little bit confusing. Just starting on this side, on this slide right here, we're talking about general obligation bonds. And the repayment of general obligation bonds is placing that tax that Jeremy mentioned on property owners within the district boundaries. So it's important to look back at what your assessed value, what your property values have been doing over this past several years. And as you see, and as you probably experienced being community members here, your tax base is very robust and has grown significantly over the past 10 years and even past 20 years. You see here since 2012, nearly 5% assessed value growth rate. That means people are moving here, homes are turning over, there's new development, and those assessed values are continuing to rise. That's important, again, because when we look at a bond program, we look in the future, and what do we expect that tax base to do? And again, that tax base directly impacts the repayment of the bonds and how much your community can afford. We talked a little bit about historically in the district. The district has passed 2 bond elections in the past over 20 years, 25 years, most recently with the 2018 election. And as you see, and I think Jeremy mentioned, or Jeremy did mention, we're looking at a Prop 39 election, 55% voter threshold. And if you look at your past 2 elections, you're well above that level. You're well above that level. So a lot of community support for the schools. I mean, that's really a testament. It's a community support for the students and the schools in the community. One thing I do want to point out in the little box, the last bullet, the tax rates. Again, we're setting a tax rate on the property owners. The current tax rate is about $75. That's going to be important because I will bring that up a little bit later in future slides. Jeremy, if you want to move on. I'll be real quick here. This is just your outstanding debt. You have several bonds outstanding, about 5 bonds outstanding. Again, most recently, you've sold bonds from that 28 election. You have no remaining authorization, so no facilities funding for any future projects or facilities that you need. I have the graph at the bottom right there, and that just shows projected tax rates based on what we expect your tax base to do in the future, where we expect tax rates to go in the future. And you see a significant drop in the next 2 years. And again, I'm going to bring that up in just a moment here. Okay, Jeremy mentioned earlier that as a unified school district, you can sell bonds at a tax rate, or you can support a tax rate or a facilities bond at a tax rate up to a maximum of $60. You can always ask for less, but as a Prop 39 bond, you can ask for more. So we just look at your tax base, make some assumptions about how it's going to grow in the future, and look at various tax rates and what your community can support financially, what the property owners financially can support with a bond. And as you see here, at various tax rates, ranging from $49 to $60 the maximum, you can generate a bond program that raises between $250 and $315 million. $250 to $315 million. So significant proceeds. However, like most districts, and I assume it's the same here, looking back at some old facilities planning here, most districts have needs much greater than what their community can afford. but at least with this, you can make a dent in what those needs are. This is with a whole new tax rate going up to that $60. And Jeremy will talk a little bit about it there, but part of this survey, part of the exploratory process is looking and talking to your community members, doing a survey and seeing what they would support. Would voters be willing to go up to that $60 tax rate, or would they want something less? Go ahead, Jeremy, thank you. Now, I think something much more compelling here, and in this district, and it's a very unique opportunity that you have, is this idea of a tax rate extension. So you're currently paying tax rates, as I mentioned before, of about $75 per 100,000 of assessed value. Doing a tax rate extension, wouldn't it increase the tax another $60, what you could do under a Prop 39 election? But what we would do is we would cap the tax at what current property owners are paying at $75 and cap that going forward. Telling the community that based on our estimates, we would raise, and in this case you could raise over $200 million by doing a tax rate extension. Keeping the tax rates level, what they're currently paying, again, it would allow you to raise over $200 million, about $210 million. Now, this is a very unique opportunity. It doesn't come up very often for districts. Why this is happening here is because you have some prior bonds from that 1997 election that are falling off the tax roll in the next 2 years. So you can only take advantage of this now. If we waited, and did consider an election in the future, you wouldn't have this opportunity again, because the 2018 bonds don't fall off for several years thereafter. But because the bonds are falling off, the 1997 bonds are falling off the tax roll in the next 2 years, by extending the current tax rate, not raising property taxes from the current levels, you could raise over $200 million. Any questions before I turn it back over? Yes. I'll just go across. There's a few.
Trustee Fox?
You're saying what people are paying now, it would just continue instead of the bond, us falling off from it would just continue what
It would
taxpayers are
continue.
paying
So
now.
if you back up one slide.
Tax, it would just continue.
It would continue. It would be a new bond election, but we wouldn't levy up to that $60. We would look at $75 where you are now, so that's the first column on that bottom right chart. And if you look, we expect a little bit of a blip up next year, but conservatively, speaking a little bit slowly tonight, if we kept it at that $75, you could generate $210 million.
Would we be eligible to have state matching funds?
I would turn that over. Yes. It does allow you to have state matching funds. I don't know what your eligibility status is, or where you are in any line to get funds.
Yeah, absolutely. We have I think it's bi-weekly meeting, Valeska, I think, with King Consulting, who is our state facility funding advisor. And oftentimes, many of these programs do have matching funds. So as those eligibility requirements come up, as those facilities come up, there is an opportunity for that.
So with the about $200 million that could raise with continuing what the taxpayers were already paying, we also can get state matching funds, so it would be more than the 200 or 210 million, correct?
Potentially, yes. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Thank you. And then can you give me some ideas, what kind of things would the money be used for?
Right, so just to give you some perspective, our last master plan, which was done in 2019, indicated over $500 million in need, $500 million. Our last bond was $200 million. So if you do the math, you add some escalation there, we're even with a tax extension like this, we would still not have enough money to meet our facilities' needs based on a 2019 study. So this would ensure some stability within our facilities going into the future. So.
Thank you.
Vice President Flores?
Just a couple of questions. When you're talking about extending it, how long would it extend for?
We would extend for about another 30 years.
Okay.
Yeah. And one thing with this extension, and going back to knowing the tax rate can get up to $60 for every new Prop 39 bond election, we would extend it. For this bond election, you would actually be well below that $60 maximum. You'd be in the $35 range for this election alone. Again, putting it on top of the other tax rates, you would extend the current tax rate.
Okay. And a quick question right now. You mentioned something about the 2019 master plan study. I would assume that was based on the amount of facilities that we had
Correct.
at that time. So
Correct.
would that be possibly less, or is it
So
a different amount?
I would argue that it would be, if not more, it would be the same because of escalation costs. 2019 construction costs compared to 2026 or 2028 potentially, when we would actually begin this construction, 27, 28, would I would call it probably about the same amount of needs, despite those facilities being closed. Those facilities still need to be maintained. If they're an asset to the district, whether we sell them or not, we still have work to do to keep the roofs up, the safety of the facility in a place that is safe for our community, and if it's used for alternate reasons, we have the ability to do some light work there. So,
Thank you.
Trustee Hodges?
You guys help me understand why the tax rates fluctuate, why the projected tax rates are expected to go down?
Yep, bonds are being paid off. Those 1997 bonds that were, again, originally sold in 97, 98, and subsequent years are being paid off.
What does that mean?
That means you have no longer any obligation to repay the bondholders that lent you money. It's like, it would be like paying off a mortgage. You pay it off over 20, 25, 30 years.
I'm catching
and
up
you finally paid off your home, so you have no more payments. So you're paying off those obligations.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And I would add, these bonds live out over a 30-year term. So Jeff and his team are making assumptions on assessed valuation growth today, and they're being pretty conservative in those assumptions because I think that's the right approach. But over the course of the 30 years, it's paid back on the actual assessed valuation, not those assumptions. And so sometimes we'll see tax rates come in lower than expected because growth has been faster or stronger than we were anticipating. And that's also why you see some fluctuations in those charts.
Got it. Thank you.
Trustee Dr. Young?
Your projections are kind of healthy because you go from 2026, do you do it every year or every 2 years? No, you don't, because then you go 2028 and 2030. But my question is, how are you projecting those tax rates with the state of the union is in now? It's not even a possibility to do that.
It is both difficult and easier than you would expect.
I don't expect anything except to pay more property tax, that's all.
What we do is we simply look back, what historically has your tax base done? And over the past 12 years, over the past 20 years, your tax base has grown. And if we back up, oh, there it is. Thanks, Jeremy. If we look, since 2012, your tax base has grown nearly 4.9%, almost 5%. So we use that to look forward. What could your tax base do in the future? Just assuming normal turnover. Now, when I did these projections on your future tax rates, I'm assuming a tax base growth of about 3.75% over the long term. Every year it's going to fluctuate, and that was part of the answer to the prior question about tax rates. Tax rates fluctuate because we're never, we're not going to hit 3.75% every year or 4.88% every year. There'll be some fluctuation in the yearly changes, but over the long term, we expect, and we project here about 3.75% average annual growth rate over the life of the bonds. So yeah, there will be some fluctuations, but that's how we come up with those projections. We just look at the historical facts here in the district.
My next question is the property tax, explain, break it down a little bit more of the $60 or whatever it is that this, how is that done? The $60 added to
Yeah.
the, yeah.
Yeah,
How is that
and whatever
done?
tax rate it is, what we do is when we sell bonds, we provide the information to the county. So the county, we sell bonds, and there's a repayment every year to bondholders who loan you the money. And every year, the county has to levy, they have to set a tax rate on the property owners of the district such that they raise enough money to repay the bonds of the district. Okay, so they're looking at every year, let's say, let's just look forward next year. To pay bondholders, you owe bondholders, district property owners owe bondholders $10 million. You have to repay $10 million to the people that lent you the money. Well, to do that, you have to share that $10 million, and the property owners, across all the property owners in the district, have to give in, $50, $100, $10. And you combine all that with all those property owners in the district, and it comes up with that $10 million. So the county is looking at what the obligation is every year, what that tax base is, and comes up with a tax rate, and every property owner will then make their property tax payments. Does
That's what I
that
want
help?
you to say.
Okay.
Because that is an increase in the property tax.
Can I walk a scenario? Just
Yes, please.
Dr. Young, let me paint a scenario. I own a home in Vallejo. Let's say my house in Vallejo is assessed at $500,000. I own a $500,000 home in Vallejo. At $60 per $100,000, that means every year on my property tax bill, I'm going to pay 5 times, because $500,000 home, for every $100,000, 5 times 60, so $300 is going to be my tax bill for that year. Is that correct?
That is correct. Correct.
Okay.
And,
If we go to the $60 rate.
An increase in tax.
well, and Dr. Young, I think the secret sauce here is on this slide here. You see the red lines?
You're already paying that.
Yeah. Those red lines are on everybody's property tax bill today, as are the yellow lines.
Let me jump
In-
here. Or do
it-
you have a
Yeah.
pointer?
In 2028, that red line is dropping because those bonds will be paid off, and there will not be a need to levy that tax anymore. So, by default, property taxes will drop. What we are talking about tonight is a measure that would continue the current tax rate so that when that drop was supposed to happen in 2028, it does not. So you are correct that taxes could go down, and they won't be, but they also would not be increasing over what they are currently paid. And that's all we're talking about tonight, and it's an opportunity to maintain what folks are currently paying and bring in a little over $200 million for the schools.
Property in Madero. They have all kind of bonds on my tax thing. And every year, my taxes went up, but there was still some dropping off, but it was still going up because they were adding more.
Yeah, and that, we actually work with those districts. That is because they sought additional authorization on top of what they were already asking for, which is a little different than what we're talking about tonight, because we would not be asking, essentially what Madera did is if you look at the red and yellow, they added a green on top of both. That was higher than that. And they continued that out into the future. What we're talking about tonight, I mean, that is an option, but what we're talking about tonight is just continuing essentially the top of that yellow line is currently being levied into the future to bring additional revenue into the district.
So my next question is, what type of bond, are these restricted that we can use them anywhere? Because there were several bonds on my taxes
Yep.
in Madero that I could use, that I saw was going to the school, that was going here, that was going there, to go into a playground. It was all kind of bonds.
Yeah.
So how restricted
So
is
this would be very restricted. Essentially, I think it might be helpful if I walk through my final slides for timeline to kind of walk through the next steps, because I think it'll help answer your question. And I'm gonna.
These can only be used for facilities.
Right.
They can't
Yeah.
be taken by the state, they can't be used for anything else. These are purely facilities bonds.
Yeah.
Dr. Young, the difference here is if, like, let's say we didn't go for a geo bond and we went for a parcel tax could be used for other things like reducing class size, for example, so hiring teachers, and that would be a different type of tax on the community. That's not what we're talking about here. You all give me direction.
Yeah. And so for any bond measure, essentially the culmination is coming back to you as a board. Yeah, with a full project list and a full resolution calling that election. And included in that resolution would be the ballot question, the 75-word ballot question that all voters would read. There would be a full description of the accountability provisions written in the measure. And then there would be a detailed project list that defines in writing, in law, what you can and cannot spend the money on. Right? And so when you as a board adopt that resolution, you're essentially agreeing to put that entire package on the ballot. Voters are going to get a ballot pamphlet with the full detailed project list, and they're really voting to enact that. And if your measure is successful, then you have a Citizens Oversight Committee that will review the use of funds on a yearly basis, and they'll come to you in the board in a board meeting and say, well, your project list said X, Y, and Z at these schools, and you spent the money on that, so thumbs up. Or, sorry, you spent the money outside of this project list, and it's not what the voters authorized. All of that is decided before you place the measure on the ballot so that we can be really thoughtful and strategic about the types of projects we fund with this measure.
Trustee Fox?
Thank you. I've been through this with Measure S. I think the only one that's been through, and it was a lot of work, and we had to get it at a higher rate, but we did it. I'm been reading your slide here about the timeline and what goes on each one, and I make a motion to approve action item E, adoption of resolution 5104.
Yeah.
Action.
Quick question. I know that when you sell the bonds, there's like a bond rating. And the last go round, Vallejo, VCUSD actually was higher, I think, than expected. If we go the route of extending versus doing a Prop 39, does that factor in at all in the bond rating so far as going one bond versus another type?
We'll go through that process again, and I could say adding another bond like this and being very conservative with what we're doing, you're not unlike any other district in the state, and it should not impact your ratings. If you start adding 2 or 3 bonds down the road, again, very unrealistic, but just to prove the point, if you did something like that, it could impact your rating. But really, the direction of this district, and I live over in Walnut Creek. I've known this district my entire life. I have family over here. Your trajectory is looking up. So I could only see your credit rating improving. And these bonds are not going to hurt it.
Thank you.
Trustee Hodge?
So since we need so much, it seems like you guys are suggesting that we extend the current one. Why?
Yeah, I think what we're really asking for tonight is just direction to undertake the first phase in this process, which is the exploration, right? Understanding, not are we going to put a measure on the ballot this year, what are voters willing to support? In our experience, these tax rate extension bonds are a lot more palatable for voters. And we're doing a lot of work in the Bay Area right now, doing voter opinion research on similar measures, on different measures, and pretty consistently we're seeing some tax fatigue and, concerns about the cost of living. And so we see an opportunity for you in this district where you do have your tax rolls dropping off in 2028 to bring in some meaningful revenue for your schools and your students and do so without increasing taxes on your residents. So it's why we're recommending the approach, but really we want to test that assumption, right? So, if we get approval tonight, our first action as a group is going to be to do voter opinion research to test that assumption and see if we're right. And we can also test other tax rates and see if those are feasible or not, and come back to you all as a board with a recommendation on next steps. And even after we do that, that presentation is not going to be a resolution calling an election. It's likely going to be a recommendation on how to potentially structure a future bond, but really how to do community outreach and engagement so that your voters and parents and community members understand why you're considering putting a measure on the ballot in the future.
Got it, thank you.
You bet.
This is the first step of many, sorry about that. This is the first step of many. Just starting the research, getting the data, talking to the community, seeing what they're willing to support.
With that in mind, may I have a motion and a second? Oh, you have a question?
I do, I have a question.
I made the motion.
Dr. Young.
Thank you for your presentation.
Of course.
How much is this gonna cost us? You did a nice presentation. How much is this costing us?
That's a
Let's
great
be
question.
transparent about this. How
Yeah.
much is this survey
Yeah.
costing us?
A survey ranges in cost based on how long it is, how many voters we ask.
No, that's not a good answer.
Well, I know, I'm getting there, don't worry. My guess is the first phase is gonna be around $50,000. And at that point, we would come back with a recommendation, based on the data and the opinion research of whether or not to move forward, right? But there is an upfront cost in order to do the research scientifically and make sure we're getting good answers and giving you the best data and advice that we can.
Well, I can help you with that research. I'm a local, okay? It won't take no $50,000. But, you know, at this particular time and what we're asking this community, I have a problem with doing researches and stuff like that and asking them in November to do something like this. We're cutting salaries, we're closing schools, and then we're gonna ask them to do something in November? I kinda have a problem with that. No, I have a big problem with that, because I am a taxpayer in this district. So it's not a good look right now, to me. It's not a good look. We should have visited this maybe 3 years prior to this, and it would have been a good look. But it's not a good look now, to me. That's my own personal opinion. I'm very transparent and unapologetic. Thank you very much.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Young. May I have a second? Trustee Hodges?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Fox?
Aye.
Trustee Hodges?
Aye.
Trustee Young? No. Vice President Flores?
No.
President Amboy?
Aye.
And the motion passes with 3 yes and 2 no.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Moving along to action item 10F, adoption of resolution 5107, approving the solution of Community Facilities District Number 2.
Great. Thank you. The adoption of Resolution 5107 would formally approve the dissolution of Community Facilities District Number 2, commonly referred as CFD Number 2. I wanted to start by providing a bit of context for the board. CFD2 was established under the Mello-Roos Community Facilities Act to help finance school facilities needed to serve students generated by new developments. It functioned as a targeted capital financing tool, allowing the district to collect special taxes within a defined area to fund those improvements. Based on staff's review of the most recent CFD administration reports, we've confirmed several important facts. All authorized improvements have been completed and are no longer required. All bond obligations and financial commitments associated with CFD2 have been fully satisfied. No future special tax levies are necessary or anticipated, and any remaining funds are restricted and will continue to be used only for capital facilities projects, consistent with the original formation documents and state law. Given these conditions, CFD2 has fully served its intended purpose. The action before the board tonight is a responsible governance step to formally close out this financing mechanism, provide clarity to our community and affected property owners, and ensure that the district's public records accurately reflect the current status of the CFD. Adoption of this resolution authorized the district to complete one final administrative levy if required to solely close out remaining obligations, which we will be able to cover with the existing fund balance of CFD2. We'll officially dissolve CFD2 once all statutory conditions are met, and we'll record notices canceling special tax liens on properties within the district consistent with government code requirements. It's important to note that this action has no new fiscal impact on the district. It does not create any new debt or impose any new taxes, and does not affect the district's ability to pursue collection of any previously levied but uncollected delinquent taxes, should any exist out there. With that context, staff recommends that board adopt Resolution 5107, approving the dissolution of Community Facilities District Number 2. Happy to answer any questions.
Trustee Dr. Young?
What is this pertaining to? The
So
delinquent tax?
there's a special tax district up in the Wardlaw, Jesse Bethel, Hiddenbrook area. And it was
the Hiddenbrook area?
Yes.
This is the Frog, okay.
Yeah, well, that's the area up there, yeah. And so there's a special tax that's been in existence since the 90s that has been funding development improvements in the area.
So we're gonna discontinue it?
We
That's
are,
what we're saying?
we are, which will lower the tax rate in that area. Mhm.
So was that a bond or a parcel?
So it's a tax mechanism that allows us to levy bonds in order to pay for facilities within that region, only within that region. We've had several in the past, yeah. And this is actually the last one from that era.
So they decided just to drop it?
Well, we decided to make that recommendation today to the board.
Okay, we're not gonna continue it?
We're not going to continue with it.
Because they decided that they didn't wanna continue it?
Well, they certainly don't want to continue with any taxes ongoing in that for this particular.
Had a conversation with the little frog, huh? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Hodges?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt. Resolution 5107.
Trustee Dr. Young?
I second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Fox.
Aye.
Trustee Hodges.
Aye.
Trustee Young.
Aye.
Vice President Flores.
Aye.
And President Amboy.
I am very happy to stop paying for the last 26 years. Aye.
The motion passes 5 yes.
Thank you, Mr. Fernandez.
Thank you.
So I have item 10G, which is the second reading of the November 2025 board policy updates. If we recall, the last board meeting, we had the first reading. So this is the second reading, and we are proposing adoption of the updated board policies.
Vice President Flores?
Make a motion to approve action item 10G.
Trustee Dr. Young?
I second.
We have a motion by Vice President Flores and a second by Trustee Dr. Young. Roll call, please.
Trustee Fox.
Aye.
Trustee Hodges.
Aye.
Trustee Young.
Aye.
Vice President Flores.
Aye.
And President Amboy.
Aye.
The motion passes 5 yes.
We're down to reports.
Okay, Superintendent's report. So as we return from winter break, I want to begin by welcoming back all of our students, our staff, and families. The start of the new year always brings renewed focus, and across the district, our campuses have reopened with care, professionalism, and a strong commitment to student learning. I am grateful to our educators, our classified professionals, and site leaders for ensuring a smooth transition back for our students. January is also School Board Recognition Month, and I want to take this opportunity to acknowledge and thank our governing board. Board service is demanding, often misunderstood, and always public. Our trustees continue to make complex decisions in the best interest of students and the long-term health of the district. I appreciate their leadership, their willingness to engage in difficult conversations, and their commitment to the Vallejo community during a time that requires both courage and clarity. So thank you. This return from winter break also comes during a period of necessary and difficult work for our district. We're making decisions to right-size Vallejo City Unified School District to ensure fiscal solvency and long-term stability. Staffing reductions and school closures are not decisions made lightly. They carry real human impact, and I want to acknowledge the dedication and service of the employees affected. These actions are driven by responsibility, not indifference. Failing to act would place the district at greater risk and ultimately result in deeper harm to students, staff, and the community. As part of this broader work, I want to be fully transparent with our community regarding inter-district transfer requests. Our transfer application window is now open, and we are doing everything within the bounds of education code and the law to encourage families to commit to Vallejo City Unified. We are a powerful and dynamic community. If our school-age students attended and remained in our district schools, Vallejo City Unified would be stronger as a whole, academically, financially, and socially. To be clear and consistent, no out-of-district or inter-district transfer requests will be reviewed until the application window closes on March 31st. Once the window closes, the district will engage in a thorough, unbiased review process aligned with board-approved policy and administrative regulations. Our commitment is firm. We will limit the release of students to no more than 1% of our average daily attendance. Just for some context, this means that for the 26-27 school year, we anticipate approving between 80 to 100 inter-district transfer requests total. This process is about fairness, consistency, and protecting the long-term viability of this district while honoring family circumstances as allowed by law. It is also about sending a clear message that the Vallejo City Unified School District believes in its schools, its staff, and its students. As we move forward, we remain focused on minimizing disruption for students and families impacted by school closures and aligning attendance boundaries to create stability, continuity, and clarity. Fiscal responsibility and educational quality are inseparable. By taking responsible action now, we are positioning the district to sustain programs, improve outcomes, and honor our commitment to the Vallejo community. This is not easy work, but it is necessary work. We will continue to communicate clearly, lead transparently, and keep students at the center of every decision. That is my report.
Thank you, Superintendent Aurelio. Reports from board members. Trustee Fox.
Last Friday on January 9th, I attended an event from Supervisor Cassandra James. She had her and City Council. We have something very unique here in Vallejo happening that I don't think is happening anywhere in California. We're going to start partnership with the county sheriffs to help patrol in Vallejo. They will be here part of the week to help augment our police department. And there was a welcoming ceremony last Friday, downtown Vallejo, that I attended. And student trustee Jacoba was there as well, and her mom. It was a wonderful event. The city council was there, the mayor, the county supervisors. It was just a wonderful way. The Chief Taw and the sheriffs both spoke about this unique partnership and how Vallejo is very unique being able to do this. Since we have about 30 police short, this is going to help us with safety and to help within our city. So it's a unique partnership, and it lasts 1 year. So it was a wonderful event. That's my report.
Thank you, Trustee Fox. Oh.
Trustee Fox, did she say what area the department was going to be covering? Did you find out what area they're going to?
As far as I understand, it's all of Vallejo, but it's going to be Wednesday through Sunday, is what I understand.
Somewhere that they were delegated for East Vallejo, South Vallejo. Anyway, I'll look.
I think it's all Vallejo,
I'll
but
look
I'm
it
not
up.
sure.
Trustee Hodges.
No report.
Thank you. Trustee Dr. Young.
No report.
Vice President Flores.
No report.
Thank you.
As far as my report, thank you again. Thank you for you all having faith in me to taking on this leadership role with this board. I couldn't be here without all of you. In terms of my vision, I am looking at basically following the footsteps of the past presidents, like Trustee Fox, Trustee Dr. Young, and you have laid the foundation of what our board should be and what it is. And I intend to carry the same vision that we've always had. It's important that the community understands that all of our decisions are not done last minute. And it's done with thought, and we ask questions. We don't ask questions in front of the public, but we do ask questions behind closed doors. And we have you in mind of what our intentions are, what's best for our children, what's best for our community, because we all live and work together. And it's important that we get ourselves out of this rut of being such a negative place, because this is our home. Everyone here is doing everything we take such passion of everything that we do. And it really comes to the point where we take those feelings and we take it home, and sometimes we end up getting sick, and just because we take that burden and it's on our shoulders, and we don't take our decisions lightly. But all we can do is look forward. All we can do is look to our vision and have faith in the things that we are doing is for the benefit of our kids. And with that, that is my report. Moving on to community forums, we have none. We have no closed sessions as well. Announcement of upcoming meetings.
Got through those? Okay, so we did put a lot on here because we have a number of meetings coming up. Not that the board is attending all of these meetings, but I think for the public to know. Starting with Tuesday, January 20th, we have our virtual staff reduction town hall meeting, number one. As we are doing these budget reductions, things will become clearer and clearer to our employees, and this is an opportunity for them to attend a virtual town hall. On Wednesday, January 21st, we are now doing town hall sessions and parent meetings for the affected schools on closures. So this will be the first one at Highland Elementary. And we're planning both a morning session and an afternoon, so at 8:30 a.m. and at 5 p.m. Thursday, January 22nd is the 2x2 at the city chambers, 4:30 p.m. And that will be the first go for our new 2x2 members. Friday, January 23rd, will be the Pennycook Elementary School Parents Meeting. That'll be at 9:30 a.m., followed up with Monday, January 26th, at Pennycook at 5 p.m. So we ask that hopefully those families come out to those meetings. Wednesday, January 28th, we have a Lincoln Elementary Parent Meeting at 8:30 a.m., and then followed up with the Thursday, January 29th, Lincoln Elementary School Parents Meeting at 5 p.m. Our next regular governing board meeting, now that we've switched to our new calendar, is February 11th at 6 p.m. And then, as a reminder to the board, we are on our new schedule. We do a study session every other month. So February does have a second meeting. That is a study session on the 25th of February. And the focus of that study session will be on facilities and master plan work and updates. So very connected to what we talked about this evening, looking at a future bond as well. So that is all the meetings.
Thank you. Future board agenda items? Vice President Flores?
I'd like an update on what outreach or what work the Latino Parent Network has done with the district. I haven't really seen much, so I just kind of want to see where we're at.
Thank you. Well, this meeting is adjourned at 8:50 p.m. Good night, everyone.
First one.